Welcome back to Glamour Unfiltered, hosted by me, Josh Smith. And today we're joined by Louis Tomlinson. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So, new album, new songs, tour on the way. You are very vulnerable in your songwriting and the music you put out there.
I'm just honest, I'd say. Yeah.
What do you think's been the hardest thing for you to be honest about with yourself?
I'm lucky with where I grew up. In Doncaster, we wear our art on our sleeves, really, you know what I mean? So it comes naturally to me, really, to kind of just be open about the way that I feel and stuff like that.
We still live in a society where it's still seen as a bit of a taboo, or there's this stigma around men talking about vulnerability and that kind of thing. What's that journey been like for you with that whole stereotype? Have you ever felt that level of stereotype?
I mean, I'm aware of it, but how I operate personally, I've always kind of owned it, really. You know, I think my mum did a good job of bringing me up and taught me good values and stuff like that. When we wrote Two of Us, that was obviously a very personal song for me. And probably the most vulnerable I've been, especially on a song. You know, I've had a couple of moments where fans have come up to me and told me what that song means to them, and maybe they've just had a loss in their life. And that's incredible, you know what I mean? I never really had that in the band to that level. You know, my lyrics really meaning something to people.
How difficult has that been to go through those private things whilst having this whole massive microscope on you?
It was definitely difficult at first,
Yeah.
you know, when I first got put in the band, and having to deal with, you know, not having as much privacy. But I suppose as time goes on, you grow to understand it and get used to it. And to be honest, you know, there has been some, you know, pretty hard times in my life, and although I wouldn't have chosen to have them played out in the public, you know, some of the reactions and some of the stuff I got from fans was incredible too.
What would you want to say to the you that was going through those deep personal moments at those times in your life? What advice would you want to give that person if you could sit them down now?
Trust yourself and trust your gut, because you know, those things are important, and nobody understands you better than you. It does help that I'm able to talk about my feelings and stuff like that, and I can have those moments where obviously I need to. But yeah, as I say, it comes naturally to me, so I'm lucky.
I think also as well, you've always had this amazing support network around you throughout your whole life. And I think also when you're in a band and you have 4 other members with you as well, there's also that immediate support network. Because I was thinking today, it must have been so weird for you to go from having that immediate support network there all the time to then it not being there all the time. How difficult was that transition for you?
There is still enough familiar faces to not kind of feel like alienated and on my own. But it definitely took some getting used to. You know, One Direction was such a well-working thing, you know, so it definitely took some getting used to. But I think, you know, as you spend time on your own, you find, you know, new people that you really get on with and develop those relationships.
How did you build your identity away from that part of your life?
It took me a second to kind of understand that I was on my own now, and you know, my identity for so long was part of a collective, and obviously you still have an individual identity within that. So I think it took me a second to kind of understand that I can be a bit of a chav again, you know what I mean, basically. And yeah, just be me really, and not have to worry too much about anything else.
Did you ever feel like, because you were just saying that, you know, you could be a bit more of a chav, did you ever feel like you were having to put anything on in that sense?
I think sometimes people insinuate that, you know, it might be the record label or management that make you like this, but it's not. You're respectful of the fan base and their age, and we had a young fan base, and also they've got mums who can get angry if you piss them off, you know what I mean? So I think it's just being respectful there.
I think so much is made in the media about your relationships with the band and brotherhood and all that kind of stuff that we were just talking about as well. How have you leaned into that immediate brotherhood you had at times? When has it been the most supportive for you? I
think honestly, you know, there's obviously times where you have better relationships with other members than you do others. But that connection, that'll be forever, definitely, because, you know, we experienced so much in a relatively short space of time. And, you know, it was crazy what we all saw together and experienced. So I think that is something that we'll have forever, really, definitely. Sometimes you might not see eye to eye, but that's the way friendships go in real life, do you know what I mean?
And they also evolve.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and people get more mature and all that, yeah.
And you resonate on different levels, on different things. And I think that's a positive thing to be able to take away from it.
Definitely, definitely.
How would you say your relationship with like brotherhood and that concept of brotherhood has changed through your career?
As I've got older, really, you know, my responsibility has changed with my sisters and my little brother. Yeah, I think it gets, I seem to understand it more as I get older. I'm currently trying to have a conversation with my twin sisters to go to sixth form. They don't want to go. So, yeah, but I think again, you know, luckily I've just, through experience and through doing it longer and kind of being older, a little bit more mature, I suppose. Yeah.
Mature, I suppose.
Yeah.
We're
Well, I
all
tried
like-
to be.
Yeah.
I mean, as a brother, I have to be, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, we're all trying to adult in some respect.
Exactly.
Do you still have a thing when you're like, oh my God, am I actually adulting well today?
Like whenever I'm with my son Freddie and whenever I'm having like those kind of conversations about school with the girls, my sisters and that, I feel like then I've got my adult head on. I have to have credibility in those conversations, you know what I mean? But I definitely still act like a lad at times. Yeah.
Is there anything you would change? Or if there's anything you would change, how would you change it?
Every mistake, I suppose, is, you know, it's all part of your journey and you do definitely learn something every time. So in terms of my career and you know, how I've come across publicly and all of that, no, I wouldn't change anything, to be honest. I'm lucky I've got like, I'm quite resilient, I'm quite persistent. This was actually the third year that I'd auditioned for X Factor that I got put in the band, you know what I mean? So I'd say resilience and persistence is important, but obviously you have to have a certain amount of self-belief for that. So just to be confident, really.
If you could give someone any advice, because for me, you seem like a very confident person, which I think is so great, but in like a really refreshing, nice way too. If people are going through any sort of confidence issues or they've been through some of the things that you've been through in your life, what kind of advice would you want to give them?
Find the people in your life that you know you love and trust and talk it through with people, because, you know, I might come across as confident in that, but obviously, you know, you have moments where you build things up in your head and you think they're, and the longer you live with that thought, you know, you think it's big, it ends up being bigger than the reality of the situation. So I think just as much communication as possible, and yeah, same with your family as well.
It's so great to see how confident you are.
Oh, thanks.
I love it.
I'll take that. Yeah, you made me feel good, love. Yeah.
Oh.